Taking a peek at the infotainment system inside of the Volvo EX30. The EX30 only has this single infotainment system that's available, and it's pretty feature-packed, and it's got a pretty interesting layout too. The top portion of this screen, so this section, is going to be locked into place. Think of that as your traditional cluster screen, because the EX30 doesn't have a head-up display or a traditional cluster whatsoever, so you're going to be glancing off to the right-hand side here in order to be able to see what's going on. Whether or not your parking brake is there are a bunch of other icons that might pop up depending on what's going on, what gear you're in, so whether that's reverse, drop down to neutral, drive, into park by hitting the button on the tip of the right stick. But when you get into that camera there, so you've got your 360 cam available as an option, so you can see what's going on all the way around you. And then there's this neat 3D view where you can take your finger and drag around in order to show you what's going on too. It's pretty neat the way that Volvo's done this, and then just exit out in order to get back to this main screen. So I want you to think of this as your home screen. You've got your current time, what the outside temperature is, along with your connection level along the top right side. There's this little bar along the top as well. You can swipe down in order to see if there are any active notifications that are available. And you saw there you've got maps, you've also got your current audio, and then your phone. So these are essentially widgetized areas that are locked into place, so you don't have the flexibility of adjusting them. But if you hit the home icon on the bottom, that's going to hide them. So you can show or hide those additional ones to get a fuller screen map experience instead. You've got a quick launch tray for which features were open last, and then along the bottom, your home button, along with an app tray. You can adjust your volume this way, and then adjusting it this way is neat. You can also do it on the steering wheel by pushing up and down this way. So if you wanted to adjust audio this way, you've got that flexibility. Then you can also change between presets by scrolling right or left on this pad. You can also use the voice command prompt to do things like change stations. You can also navigate using your voice and do a boatload of other things, including adjusting the climate too. But if you want to walk through on the steering wheel buttons, you'll find that down in the description of this video. Pushing that brings you back to the home screen. You've got some climate settings there, so think of this as a quick launch tray for the climate settings. So you could toggle the heated steering wheel on to 3 different levels, turn on your heated first row seats as well. There's dual zone climate control, so you can have it set for something different passenger driver side, link the passenger to the driver's side instead, hide those basic settings, tap this in order to get to a series of advanced settings. So you've got your auto mode, which means the vehicle is going to figure out what speed to go with for everything. You've also got your front defroster. Do you want it going to your windshield, face, feet, some sort of combination of all of the above? Max air conditioning, defrosters, recirculate air as well. Then you can adjust this out for 3 different auto levels. You can fully adjust it out for a manual mode. So if you wanted to manually control everything, you'd have that flexibility. Same idea, windshield, face, feet, etc. You can see here that there's also the option for an air purifier, which makes the cabin air really clean. You can automatically recirculate that. You can turn climate off completely if you'd like to. There's air quality, so you can see how we're doing here. 2.5 parts per million, which is great. And then climate settings are available too. So parking comfort's kind of neat. So it does say that you shouldn't leave people or pets locked in the car, but at the same time, you have to run out, you're leaving a spouse in the seat next to you there. You can just hit the start button here. And what that's going to do is keep climate active and essentially goes until your battery level's 20%. So if you wanted to go shopping, leave your spouse in the car, you'd have that flexibility. And then you can also set an individual timer for the climate as well. And inside of the Volvo phone app, you'd also have the flexibility of being able to do things like turn your climate on. You can unlock the doors, you can drop down the glove box, and a few other neat features, including changing up your charging schedule and things like that. But if you want to walk through on the app specifically and how to set it up, you'll find it down in the description of this video. Lots of options here. You can hit the little icon view in order to get to a few other options. Do you want the heated steering wheel to come on automatically when you start the vehicle up? Yay or nay? And some other basic settings there. That's for climate. Then you've got a boatload of additional settings. So quick controls, car status, and advanced settings as well. So we'll get to that one last because there's a boatload of things to cover off here. Let's go through and start off here. And we'll kind of just go line by line. So starting off with media. So as of right now, there are no phones connected, so I don't know why I selected that to start. Let's go with our radio first here. So you can see you've got the option for FM inside of the ride, so there's no AM station availability. There are some apps that you can download if you wanted to get AM stations or additional radio stations, but as a default, FM is your only option. You can see here there's a star icon next to these, and these are going to be your preset or your favorites instead. So you can navigate through, star out whatever stations that you'd like to have saved as your favorited stations. And then from there, if you tap on favorites, that's going to have all of the stations that you favorited there. You can hit this little icon in order to go back to different apps for audio. You can hit the icon here in order to turn on HD radio, which would be stations that are broadcast digitally instead. So it's straightforward. You can tap this in order to go to a fuller screen. When you're on just regular radio, pause doesn't actually pause the song. What it's doing is essentially acting as a mute button. And then you could also change between stations this way, dropping back down. Hopping back home, you've got your camera that's available there. So quick launch to get into your camera. The quality of the camera is fantastic. Love what Volvo's done there. Then exit out to Google Assistant. So you've got your voice command prompt there, and you can do so many different things. So we can either hit it there, or you can also hit the voice command prompt on the steering wheel. Turn on heated steering wheel.
Got it. Turning on the steering wheel heater.
So you'd be able to turn on the heated steering wheel there. You'd also be able to adjust out the differences between the passenger and the driver's side. You could sync climate up using your voice too. Sync up the temperature.
All right, syncing the temperature.
So it syncs the passenger side to whatever the driver's side is. So the voice assistant is pretty smart. You can navigate using your voice and so many other things. I know some people aren't crazy about having climate control baked right into the screen, but once you get the hang of using the assistant there to change it out instead, it's really straightforward to use. From here, you've got Google Maps. So this is your map application that's built into the screen. So Google Maps is very straightforward to use, no different than using it on your phone. Along the top there, you can search for addresses using your voice. You can hit the search icon there in order to search for addresses. You can search by GPS coordinates, point of interest icons. So if you have a certain place you want to go to, so looking at Tim Hortons to see what's around me, you can see there are a bunch of options that are available. Let's go to one that's a little bit further away. Let's go to number 9. There we go. And you can see there are a few options. It's going to tell you what your battery percentage is when you get there. You can tap this to see if there's parking available. You can see if there are additional routes available too. So you can see 3 unique routes. So if you wanted to go a certain way instead, you'd have the flexibility to be able to do it. You can adjust things to avoid on your route. So did you want to avoid highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that? And then you can also exit out and you're started. You can hit exit in order to cancel that route. Hit search again to see the previously searched for destination. Tap it again to continue going. You can also add in an additional stop. So we're going to the Tim Hortons, but I don't know, maybe along the way you wanted to choose another destination, and maybe you wanted to see what charging is available too. So if we said charge point, so charge point or charging stations, so we can see what charging stations are available. So if we wanted to go this way first, you could then add in that stop. You've got Tim Hortons into the charging station, so done, and you can see there, back and forward. You can edit the stops out if you want to. So this little hamburger icon, you can drag it up and down. So if you wanted to stop at the charge station first, you could. You can exit out if you wanted to just cancel one of the routes, or one of the end waypoints, I should say. Start is going to get you going again. And then you can hit the little X icon there in order to be able to cancel your route out. From here, you can hit this little icon in order to see different views. So do you want a satellite, like a terrain view instead, or something simplified? Adjusting things out on your route, so avoiding highways, toll roads, and ferries. You can download offline maps as well. So if you know you're going somewhere where you won't have a good connection, you'd be able to download the maps so you could still navigate as you drive. There's EV payment options available, so if you wanted to search for free charging stations and things like that, that's available. You could mute out notifications so you can just get alerts. So as you're coming to an upcoming turn, do you want just alerts? Do you want an alert and a voice? Or do you want nothing to happen at all? You can change out your heading this way, so north up, different views there. You've got full pinch to zoom capabilities available here too. Recenter it back on you. Now, one nice thing about Google Maps is that if you've logged in to your Google account, what's going to happen is if you search for addresses on your phone, it's going to automatically launch all of your previously searched for addresses here. Benefit of signing in there is it's good in order to have your maps set up, and then also for the Google Play Store, which we'll touch on in just a second. But that's using navigation inside of the ride. It's incredibly easy to do, which means next up is going to be adding in Apple CarPlay. Oh, what we're going to do on the phone, we've got Bluetooth there. So we're going to go to Bluetooth here and add in a new device. We've got the iPhone here, so let's go ahead and pair. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, there we go. Perfect. All right, so for whatever reason, just gave me an error, but now we've got PIN numbers and they matched up. So let's go ahead and pair. Do you want to allow access to contacts and favorites? This is not my car, so I'm saying no to that one. And we are now connected. So you could stop here if you want to. So you're connected over Bluetooth, so you'd be able to make phone calls. And then you've also got the flexibility of using CarPlay. So if we hit the little icon here, we've got our phone connected for phone calls and for media. If we tap the little icon here for CarPlay, if you don't have it, tap into the Apple CarPlay side of things. Now on your phone, it's saying, do you want to use CarPlay with the Volvo? So let's go ahead and use CarPlay. We have to make sure, you can deselect these if you really want to, but just hit accept. And a few seconds in, look at that, fully connected. And you can see there, nothing exciting. So we're currently connected and it's nice and responsive. Now, from here, you've got your little home screen. You can tap this in order to get to the home screen, back to the icon view instead. And you can see here, this screen is kind of customizable. So you've always got which map was last opened along the top and then search bar. And then you've also got your now playing. So if you've got media going. If you have a calendar notification coming up today that hasn't passed, then you've also got the calendar box here. But if there's no notification today, the search box would be stretched across the side here. So there'd be only 2 boxes. But outside of that, there's no way to customize it. So it's not a widgetized area at all. You can hit this to get back to the icon view and swipe across. Along the bottom, you've got your current time. And then these apps are ones that were open last. So your map, your audio application, or miscellaneous application. So these ones were the last ones that were opened, along with your current connection level and your battery level. But you've got Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze. So Apple Maps available here. And it's straightforward using it. You've got slight pinch to zoom, not an overly accurate pinch to zoom available there, but it's there. And then Google Maps is the same idea. So you've got your option of moving around using your finger there. If for some reason it's got me in the middle of the ocean, happens sometimes. And then you've got Waze as well. So Waze, hands down, is normally my favorite map application to use anyways. Big reason why. If there are speed traps, people are going to mark that off. If there's construction, if there's traffic, things like that, people are pretty good at marking those things off on the highway. And then you can mark things off too. So if you notice that there are things going on the highway, like let's say if there are speed traps and other things going on, you'll be able to mark that off yourself. Back home, flow and charge point are going to be for electric vehicle driving, so different charge stations that were available. The one downside is that the screen unfortunately does not support video playback through CarPlay. So no video playback capabilities whatsoever. You can use VLC for audio, Live One's a radio app. There are a series of other ones, and you can kind of customize the look here. If you go into settings, you can adjust it to driving focused if you didn't want to end up getting any notifications as you drive. You've got basic wallpaper too. So if you wanted to change up the look, like let's say if something like this speaks to you a little bit more, you'd have the flexibility of being able to change that instead. But it's nice. And then you can customize the icon layout too if you'd like to. On your phone, if you go into your settings, you're going to jump into General and then CarPlay, find your vehicle. You can forget it, you can customize it, or turn it off. So if we go customize, you could hit the little hamburger icon on the outside and do a drag and drop in order to customize the layout here. Anything with a minus next to it, you can remove it from the screen as well. So if we swipe across, you'll see there that some of the apps have disappeared, but it saves it along the bottom of the phone, so you can add them back in. But if you've played around with the layout too much and you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of the phone, there's a reset option. So you're just going to tap reset, reset, and that's going to bring you back to the factory default layout screen for the icons instead. Then let's say for whatever reason you can't even get to this step, so CarPlay is not working for you whatsoever. Check down in the description of this video. I've put together a little walkthrough that you can check out that goes through some common CarPlay issues and how you can look at fixing them as well, but it's straightforward using it. If you hop back to your little home screen there, you've got your Apple CarPlay, so you can jump back in this way. If you're back on the home screen, you can see there you've got CarPlay along the bottom, so same idea, you can tap to get back inside. If you hit the little car icon along the bottom, you could go into some additional settings. So you've got your controls, charging, connectivity is the one we're looking for. And we've got the iPhone that's currently being connected. So if you tap the 3 little buttons here, you're currently connected to CarPlay. But if you disconnect from CarPlay, that's going to reconnect over Bluetooth, where you could choose to use the phone strictly for phone calls or for media, or you can fully remove the device. And back, actually, we go back to the home screen. There we go. You can see there, we're just connected over Bluetooth instead. And CarPlay, not connected because you've got to set it back up. That's how you set up iPhones inside of the Volvo EX30. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. And one downside though is that you don't have the flexibility of using Android Auto inside of this screen. So it's strictly going to be Bluetooth that's available. So if we go back to our little car icon, and this is if you've already got a phone connected. So we're going to hit the car icon, go into settings, connectivity, and then you've got the phones here, but we're looking for add a new device. And then on your phone, you're looking for Volvo to show up, and we're going to go ahead and click Volvo S9 Plus, and it's going to take a second. PIN numbers match up, so let's go ahead and OK and confirm. Okay. And it's asking me, do I want to allow access to contacts and messages? So this is not my car, so I'm definitely saying no to that one. And then you might get another error message there, but I'm now fully connected to the Android device. So if I go back to the home screen here, you can see that I'm currently connected. So I can hop inside for phone calls, recents, contact, keypad, etc. You can also hit this little swap icon if you wanted to get back to this screen, and then from there you can hook up to one of the other phones instead. Like I said, downside here is that you've strictly got the option for Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto, but you can connect to your Android device over Bluetooth to make phone calls and things like that. And then inside of the Play Store, you'd be able to download additional apps if you wanted to. But straightforward. Back inside, let's do a quick swap, and we're back on this screen. You can toggle Bluetooth off completely if you'd like to. You could hit the three little dots here if you wanted to launch back into the other phone, but you can see here, you've got these buttons now, so that's on both of them. So if you wanted to, you could use one phone for strictly phone calls if you'd like to, and then you can use the other phone strictly for media. So you can kind of do a little bit of a mix and match there if you'd like to, or just hit remove, and that's going to delete the devices from the vehicle. And that's how you set up Android and iPhone devices inside of the EX30. And back from here, let's go back home. And next up is going to be the Play Store. So you can see here that there are some other apps that I've already installed. So Angry Birds, Fireplace, and Waze. Like Waze is my go-to app, so I downloaded it right to the vehicle. But if that's not the case for you, so if you don't have many apps, you're going to sign in, and it's straightforward to do. So it's going to take a second here, so getting ready to sign in. And all you have to do is pull up your phone, and you're just going to scan the QR code using your photos, and you're going to tap on the settings icon there, and then it's going to ask you to sign in. Okay, and just a second here, it's just running through the sign-in process, and this is where you're going in order to actually be able to download apps to the vehicle. And there's one other cool thing now that I'm signed in that I'll show you. So you can see different apps that are available, so different games and things like that that you can use while you're parked. Chrome is available here as an option too. And there are a bunch of other options that are available. So if there are certain apps that you like on the Android Auto side of things or the Android side, you can find the majority of them here. You can hit this in order to look at additional options. But now that we're also signed in, so you can download different apps. But if we go back to the home screen now, I'm now signed in on Google Maps. And one of the benefits there is that I can look at all of my previously searched for addresses that have been done on my phone. So very beneficial. So if you've searched for addresses on your phone, you can see what's going on here instead. Back home into the icon view, we've now got Chrome that's been installed to the vehicle. There we go. And I'm actually curious if this is going to work. So if we go, will this actually work? Oh, fingers crossed. Does it work like a regular browser? Oh, I think it might. I think it might. There we go. So you can see here on my channel, I've got like a boatload of different videos that are available. So key fob tricks for not only just Ford vehicles, for Volvo and things like that, but you've got full video playback that's available here. And it's strictly going to be when you're parked, but I mean, that is super cool. Love that you've got that available as an option, but there are so many different apps. You've got Angry Birds, a car fireplace. If you wanted something a little bit more relaxing, you've got that available as an option instead. There's a fully digital owner's manual here too. So if you're getting weird messages inside of the upper part of the screen here, you want to know how things work. So let's say if you wanted to know different things about charging, you can see different charge options that are available, how long charging is going to take inside of the ride too. It's based off of a lot of things, but it is kind of neat that you can see all of this information right inside of the screen too. You can access it online just through like a desktop or even through your phone if you really wanted to on top of that. So I mean, if this video didn't help out, that will for sure. Hopping back to this home screen, then next up is going to be all of your available settings. So let's start off. You've got controls for your exterior lights, and you've got different options here. I normally recommend just keep yourself in the auto mode though, because what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes that high beams are needed, it's going to turn them on automatically. But when you're in the auto mode, you also can't permanently lock your high beams out. So in order to permanently lock your high beams out, you just have to go into your headlamp mode there and save. And once you do, you can push away to lock your high beams out, pull towards you in order to be able to turn them off. When you're in the auto mode though, you do have the flexibility of being able to flash your high beams out no problem. It's just that you can't lock them out unless you're in that headlamp mode. You can turn on your fog lamps as well. You can adjust your headlamp. So if you wanted to have it sit on higher levels, higher or lower, you'd have that flexibility. So it's essentially going to be, where do you want the light to sit? I normally just say at level 0, but that's ultimately going to be your choice. From there, you can adjust your mirrors too, because typically you'd have some controls along the door, but there's nothing there. So what you do is select whichever mirror that you want to adjust, and once you find that, use this as a directional pad to adjust it. So if you wanted to move that side view mirror up or down, you'd have the flexibility to do it versus left and right on top of that. So you're just using the pad here in order to be able to adjust out your mirrors. You could fold them in here too, if you wanted to. So fold, unfold, straightforward. There is ambiance that's available, so there is some ambient light available inside of the ride, so you can adjust it out to different looks if you'd like to. You can also control the brightness of the ambiance. From there, you've also got rain sensitive for your wipers, so high, medium, or low. So you do have control for the wipers, so you can actually, along the left stick, so there's a few options that are available here. So you could move up or down in order to adjust your wipers into different speeds there. And then here you can also adjust your wiper fluid. So if you wanted to toggle your wiper fluid on, you could. But if you just do a very quick light press, that's going to give you just an individual wipe. And one thing when I first hopped inside of the car is I defaulted to look off to the right-hand side for a glove box, but nothing off to the right. But I saw this button, and that's your glove box button. So when you tap it, look at that. Definitely borrowed from the Nissan Ariya, but that's pretty neat that that's available as an option. And one cool thing is that you can also enter in a pin if you wanted to lock the glove box out completely. You could open and close the trunk from the inside. There's your lane keeping aid too. And then with the adaptive cruise control system, so you can toggle it on this way, you could then increase or decrease 5 kilometers, 5 miles per hour at a time by pushing that up or down. You could push and hold down or push and hold up to either increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time instead too. Then you've got this button, and that's going to be for just either adaptive cruise control or the pilot assist. With pilot assist, when the vehicle recognizes the lane markings, it's like a full following assist system as well. You can keep your hands off the steering wheel for a few seconds before you get a notification letting you know that you need to put your hands back on the wheel. There's also one pedal drive available too, so you could use the accelerator pedal or the brake when you've got one pedal drive on. But with one pedal drive, you take your foot off the accelerator and you slow down very rapidly. So, matter of preference there. And then driver alert, if you start to veer over too many times without signaling, the car sees you kind of nodding off or yawning too often, it's going to let you know that you might want to take a break. But you can toggle that one off if it drives you crazy. Car status, if there's anything up with the vehicle, you can figure that out. You've got your tire pressure information to see what's going on with tire pressure. Change it out to PSI, KPA, or bar on the fly. See your trip information too. So you've got your current trip, last reset, etc. And you can see what total consumption that you've gotten. You can hit this in order to do a reset too. So you can either have it reset automatically after each trip. So very useful if you're using this as a business vehicle and you need to track your mileage. Or every time you recharge, do you want it to reset? Or you can just do a manual reset by tapping reset there instead. Simple. There's the user manual and then check to see if there are any software updates available. Hopping into your settings gives you so many options. You've got your driving options here, so whether or not you're pilot assist versus just speed limiter. Speed limiter is a pretty interesting system. So with the speed limiter turned on, it takes the road speed into account. So when you've got the adaptive cruise control system turned on, let's say if you've got it set at 60, 70, 80, 100 miles or 100 kilometers an hour, if the road speed is, let's say 40, it's not going to go past that point. So even if you have it set at 60 and the road speed is 50, it won't go past 50. You can hit the accelerator pedal if you actually wanted to speed up to try to get closer to that limit. But after you take your foot off the accelerator, it's going to bring you back down to the actual speed limit instead. There's steering assist too. So again, as long as it recognizes the lane markings, keeps you nice and balanced in your lane. Then there's this one, lane change assist, which, I mean, that's a pretty neat one in and of itself. So when you hit the turnstile to go left or right, and as long as the vehicle recognizes the lane markings and it's available, you'll get a message on the top of this part of the screen letting you know essentially if there's a space available left or right. If there is, you hit that turnstile to go left or right, and you have to keep your hands on the wheel, but it'll automatically change lanes for you if you'd like to. You can interrupt it as well if it's going too slow or if you wanted to just cut in yourself, but that's neat, it's available. You can also have the vehicle adapt to the speed. So let's say if the speed's currently at 80 and it drops down to 60, it can slow you down. If it's at 60 and it increases to 80, it can speed you up as well. And then your interval. So you've got 3 different levels for how close or far you are away from the vehicle that's in front of you. So you've got essentially level 1, level 2, level 3. I recommend level 1 if you're using it on residential streets. You might want to be on level 2 on highways or interstates, depending on your comfort level, or level 3. Level 3 for sure in snowy, slippery conditions, but it's going to be a matter of preference. You can toggle one pedal drive on, so you'll see a few different settings that are repeated, a few different spots. Your steering feel, do you want to have it like softer, medium, or firm? I'm personally a fan of having it firm. Hill descent control, do you want to turn stability control off? That one's a matter of preference. Where you really want to do that is that if you're not getting traction on the vehicle. Lane keeping aid, again, the one that nudges you back into your lane, or a series of safety settings that are available too. So lane departure warning, you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, you would get a warning. Do you want an alert? Let's see here, rear collision warning. So with yourself in reverse there, it'll let you know as you go to back up if there's a potential obstacle in behind you as well. Blind spot system. So if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, it's going to highlight right there, letting you know if somebody's entered the blind spot. And then on the top of the screen here, it also lets you know very subtly if somebody's entered the blind spot on either side of that system there as well. Let's see, do you want to get speed limit warnings? Yay, nay. I'm not a fan of those, but you can get it. And then are you okay with going over or under the speed limit? Rear cross traffic alert, as you go to back up, if somebody's coming perpendicular from the left or the right side, it can let you know of a potential collision. And next up, you've got a series of different controls. So car mode's kind of neat. So car wash mode, what that one's going to do is, well, you can see here, closing the windows, folding everything as necessary. So if you're going through a car wash, you won't have the windshield wipers going nuts. It's actually kind of cool that's available. And then parking comfort, which is going to keep the climate control settings turned on. Maximum up to when you get to 20% of your battery, but you can also set it for a certain time. So if you know you're going to be shopping for 2.5 hours, you're going to leave your husband in the car, you've got that flexibility of adjusting it out this way if you'd like to. Then you can also turn the car off this way instead. You can adjust the brightness of the screen, toggle your fog lamps on, off, adjust all of your lights. So there's an auto mode versus a dark mode. I'm personally a bigger fan of the dark mode. That's why I've got it this way, but the auto mode essentially is going to be that light mode instead. You can adjust the brightness of the screen, but I don't know, I'm personally a big fan of this one, but you could go either or. Auto means that it's going to flip you between the day or the night mode, just depending on how bright it is. And then if you want to clean the screen because things have gotten a little bit too greasy with fingerprints, you could wipe the screen down, and you're going to press and hold the button along the bottom there. And that's going to bring the screen back to life again. There are a few different light modes. Again, we've seen that one earlier. Adjusting your interior lights, your courtesy light, nothing interesting. Reading light up overhead. And let's see here, mirrors and wipers. We've already seen adjusting out your mirrors there. You can fold them out this way. So again, you'll see a few of these things done a few different ways. Do you want to lock the rear windows so people in the back can't open them up? Other options for locks. Nothing exciting. Auto unlock doors when you go to put the vehicle into park. This is where you're going to lock the glove box. So if you want the glove box locked, so you've got some valuables in there, you can lock it out. And then that hot button press that we saw along the home icon here, so opening up your glove box, you wouldn't be able to use that without entering a password instead. It's actually pretty neat that that's available as an option. Proximity lock, as you go to walk away from the vehicle or walk towards it. Do you want the doors to automatically lock, unlock? Do you want all doors to become unlocked or just the driver's side door? The light on the outside of the vehicle when you're walking away, do you just want it to turn off or stay on for up to 90 seconds? When the vehicle locks, do you want a sound? Do you want the side view mirrors to fold in? Do you want the windows to automatically close as you walk away? So if you've got the windows down, you walk away, it can lock it, fold the side view mirrors, and close the windows for you automatically. It's kind of neat. Steering wheel buttons, where you'd have the flexibility of adjusting out just a single button. So your customizable button is this little feller. So as a default, that's going to change up the screen view along the top of the screen, but you can also have it toggle one pedal drive on or off. Your glove box you can open, your trunk you can open there as well. And then some basics for sound. So do you want it focused on the driver, people in the back? And you can also adjust your equalizer. So what I'd recommend here is play one of your favorite songs. And while you're doing it, you can adjust this out in order to customize it a little bit more. So you can really get full control over how the audio sounds. Like I said, play one of your favorite songs, adjust this out until it sounds perfect for you, or you can just go back to any of the default settings instead. You can adjust out individual volumes for everything. For media, if you wanted to adjust out your call volume, your voice assistant volume, parking sensors and things like that, everything can be adjusted this way if you like. Connectivity options, you can toggle Bluetooth off completely. If you've got phones connected, this is where they'll show up. Wi-Fi, whether or not you want to connect to a Wi-Fi network at home. Benefit there, you could download offline maps. And then some options for charging. So with charging, you can adjust a few things out. So typically, general rule of thumb, you want to be able to target out to 90% max. If you're going to be using the vehicle tomorrow and you're going for a distance trip, say long or custom, but you could target it out to whatever option you'd want to here. But like I said, if you're going to be using the vehicle tomorrow for a longer trip, go up to 100%. Otherwise, it's a general good rule of thumb to keep it at 80 or 90% so you don't prematurely wear the battery out. You could also limit the charging current. So if you've plugged into a station, whether that's at home or somewhere public, and it's giving you problems, it's not charging up properly, you can also adjust out your maximum allowable amperage. So you could select it at a different level instead. And one of the benefits there is that it's going to affect the overall charging rate. So if you're on a fast charger and it's not charging up properly, you can adjust this out until charging actually kicks in and starts for you. Then you can also schedule when you want charging to happen. So let's say if you know you're going to get cheap electricity rates from 7 o'clock, yeah, that's actually pretty good, 7 until 6:45, you can have it so that it's only going to charge up during that window. And then there's also the Volvo EX30 phone app, and that's strictly for the EX30 as well. It's a really straightforward app to use and set up, but if you want a walkthrough on actually setting the app up and how it's used, check down in the description of this video for how it's done, but it's very straightforward to do. Moving back, you've got all of your basic charging options here. I'm fine with charging up all the time. There are user profiles that are available. One of the big benefits there is that if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you can select different profiles. So it's going to remember everything. If you've signed into your Google account, if you've got all of your climate settings set up a certain way, your driver's seat set up a certain way, you can select it this way. You could toggle it in order to be able to link to an account. You can connect an individual key to it. There are privacy options available here too, and for this specific profile. So you'd have the flexibility to do it or completely remove the profile instead. There's some basic privacy information, nothing overly exciting here. There's an ads manager. Technically, it's a Google device, so it has to have it. I've never seen ads inside of this vehicle, but it's a little concerning that it's there. Then you've got some basic system information. So you could adjust out the language if you'd like to. So you can adjust out your language to English, Spanish, or French, or so many different options. It's one of the benefits of it being Google-based. Text-to-speech and keyboard info, there's nothing exciting. Date and time, you could have it automatically update. So these things are grayed out because you're in the auto mode. So you could then set the date and the time manually if you'd like to. I'm fine with being in auto. If you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one to the other, you can toggle that off, and then you could select your own time zone if you'd like to. So if you wanted to permanently lock a time zone into place, you'd have the flexibility to do it. And then do you want to use the 12 versus 24-hour mode? So you prefer to use that military time or just the 0 to 12? Measurement unit, you can also adjust out. So do you want to be in either kilometers or miles? So that's going to adjust everything out for you here. Do you want to be in kilometers or miles per hour instead? Celsius or Fahrenheit for your climate. And then your range estimate here. So certified is going to be the actual maximum range that you're going to get. Dynamic is based off of all of your conditions, so how cold it is outside, if you've got your climate going, and a bunch of other things. I always recommend keeping it on dynamic because that's going to be the most accurate version of what you're actually going to expect with your total available range. But you can adjust any of these things out if you'd like to. There's basics for apps, notifications, permissions. There's nothing exciting there. And then you've got reset options here too. So you could reset network settings. So if you've got issues with the car, you could reset that way. You could do a full reset for the car, and that's going to wipe the screen out. So if you're running into any sort of issues, you can do a full factory reset this way if you'd like. What you actually want to do is a soft reboot. So in order to do the soft reboot, you're going to push and hold the volume down button on the right side and push and hold the cruise control down button on the left side. So you push and hold those ones for about 10 seconds or so. Just going to keep on hanging on. And then you're going to release after about 10 seconds. There you go. You can see there the screen has now turned off and you've entered a soft reboot cycle. And what that's going to do, like I said, it's going to get rid of the majority of issues that you might be facing. So if CarPlay's not working, if you're getting weird messages or the screen is glitched out and it's just not working properly, do that soft reboot instead by pushing those down buttons along the steering wheel on the left and the right pad. And after a few seconds, that's going to enter this full reboot cycle. So I know that what I covered off here is a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Volvo EX30.